How are you doing? Good.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order, the Champaign County Board. It's Thursday, January 27, 2011. The time is 7:05. Roll call, please.
Anderson. Benzel.
How are you?
Bergson. Betts.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Coert.
Present.
Holderfield.
Here.
James.
Here.
Jay.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Knott.
Here.
Kurtz.
Here.
Langenheim.
Here.
McGinty.
Here.
Michaels.
Here.
Mosier.
Here.
Nudo.
Here.
O'Connor. Petrie.
Present.
Quisenberry.
Here.
Richards.
Here.
Rosales.
Here.
Sapp. Schrader.
Here.
Alex.
Here.
Ammons. And Weibel.
Here, we have a quorum. Note that Ms. Anderson did inform me that she'd be out of town. In fact, she's on a cruise in the Caribbean. Tonight's prayer. Eternal God, we thank you for the longer days of sunlight as we move toward the springtime, for this season of penance and for these moments of mediation. If we are not already so, cause us to be grateful and thankful people. Help us to see the blessing each day brings. Help us to see the thoughtful gestures of those around us. Help us to see the beauties of the earth. Help us to see the richness of our heritages. Help us to see the satisfaction in doing something well. Help us to see the workings of your hand in our lives. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Miss America.
Will the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on January 27th, 2011, 7 o'clock p.m. in the Lyle Shields Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payment of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Betts.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rosales. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Seek approval of the agenda and the addenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rosales.
Second.
Second by Mr. James. We're pulling off item number 11B4 under Finance. That's 11B4. Because it is not an emergency amendment, it will go on the amendment next, or on the agenda for next month. Mr. Betts.
I would like to remove from Finance item 5 so that the committee could redraft this at the Committee of the Whole into a proper budget amendment or a proper transfer.
Second. Actually, we don't. Yeah, so we don't need a.
Point of order? Why? I don't understand
Hold
why
on,
this would be.
Mr. McGinty, you have a question on why? Mr. Betts.
Because I don't believe it's in order. It should be either in the form of a transfer or a budget amendment, and we have plenty of time to draft it in either form so that there's a specific line item that it's coming from and going into. We don't have a specific line item for redistricting commission. I want this in better form so that we know specifically what we're voting on and what the exact limitations are, and where every penny of that money's coming from.
May I respond?
Sure. It's open for discussion.
So if I disagree, what about an opinion from the parliamentarian on this? I don't see a problem with this, but I'm interested in an opinion. I think that's inappropriate asking for it to be removed.
I don't think so. Go ahead. It's not a problem.
Specifically, background on why it's in the form that it's in.
It's not a parliamentary discussion. It's not really a parliamentary decision. It's not a Robert's Rules of Order. It's really, I think, whether or not Mr. Betts believes that it's under the, I guess, the rules of how this county board operates, whether for
county-
transfer of money. I mean, the Robert's Rules of Order doesn't really deal with how money is,
So if
how money
there's
is
a
transferred, things
disagreement
like
with
that.
Mr. Betts, does he just have the right to just pull it off?
No.
No, we'd have to, we're going to vote on this. We have not voted on it yet.
Okay.
That's what I was going to put as a matter of parliamentary. You can vote up and down on
Correct.
the agenda or on the removal. And I have asked that that be removed in the way if you don't want it removed, you vote not to remove it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand why a budget amendment or transfer would be required. The funding for this is already in the budget. It's in the County Planning and Zoning Department budget through the planning contract with RPC. The line item is already budgeted, and an explanation of the work plan for the county planning contract is provided with this document. The money is already appropriated. I don't know what budget amendment or transfer would be prepared. Similarly, for the GIS fund, the money is already appropriated.
And I would point out that when we adopted budgets for RPC and what have you, there was never a mention that any of that money was ever going to be used for redistricting. This is completely outside of the scope of that budget. That's what I'm objecting to.
But I believe you're voting on amending the work plan. I don't know how to amend the budget when the money is already
Because we are-
budgeted for this year.
We will be transferring or amending in such a way as that money goes into a line item of the county, which is the redistricting commission. It is an entity. It is going to be dealing with this money issue. They're going to be spending it without our direct oversight. We need some control there. I have never seen on the county board this kind of thing done with redistricting, where we simply gathered up a amount of money that was in some other budget and decided to use it for a different purpose.
Mr. James, did you have a,
I was going
Comment?
to pull something else off the agenda, but if you're...
Well, why don't we wait?
I'll wait. Pardon me?
Mr. Jones, did you have
I was going to ask for
a microphone, please?
a roll call on this vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Nudo.
Well, Mr. Betts was not at the previous meeting, and understandably, but I do believe that this has been discussed very thoroughly, and there is a pattern here. And this pattern is very evident as to what's going on. And it's very evident that there are a number of people in this group who do not want to see the redistricting commission carry out its function. And I think this delaying tactic means nothing. And I hope the public, through the media, will pick up on what is going on here. If the administrator feels that we've been doing our due diligence on this, I do not understand why, after long discussion and a contentious vote, this is brought up again. But I do understand. I do totally understand. And it's the wrong way to do business.
Ms. Bergson, microphone, please.
I'm getting a little tired of Mr. Nudo ascribing ulterior motives to us all the time.
Please, comments to the chair, not about other people.
But we have not appropriated any money. You say the money was already appropriated. We have appropriated nothing for the redistricting commission. So I think that we need to do that. And that's not a resolution.
For Pete's sakes.
Can I respond?
That's
Yeah,
what
go
we've been
ahead.
discussing.
You have appropriated $77,867 in the general corporate fund budget for the county planning county planner work contract. And that is already appropriated. It's in the budget. I can't prepare an amendment to change that because what you are voting on tonight is an adjustment to that planner's contract to amend the work plan to absorb this work and change it from other work that was previously documented. The number of hours that will be spent, the dollars that will be spent are all outlined in the resolution you have before you this evening, and the money is already in the appropriate line item to pay for this work. Similarly, the work that would be done by the GIS consortium is already budgeted in the appropriate line item in the GIS fund from which we pay RPC through the GIS consortium for special projects that they do for the county. There's not another line item to put that money into for the work to be done for the redistricting commission. What you are approving tonight is a resolution identifying that you are adjusting some of those work plans and projects with the hours and the dollars as set forth in the agenda tonight to be distributed to the redistricting commission's need for support throughout the work that this county board has directed it to do over the next 3 months. So I cannot tell you that I don't know what budget amendment or transfer would be prepared to bring back to you.
Mr. Nod?
Well, actually, a lot of things we don't ever have this much detail on. I mean, after 11 years of being here, very seldom do we have something that actually breaks it down per hour. The amount of hours are going to be spent on a particular project. And I think what's disappointing to me is here we are again, I think the first county in the nation, as far as we know, that can have this redistricting commission, which we've already approved, and try to do things differently. And I get some sense that we're still not totally comfortable with that. I know I get the implication we're trying to find a procedural way to not fund this money. But I think as the administrator explained, it is there. From what I also understand, there was some of that funds that the scope of work probably wasn't totally allocated for the amount of hours that we budgeted. This defines in exorbitant detail what the deliverables are. I mean, I think actually in some ways it's a refreshing way to do county business. It's like, gee, we're going to spend money and here's how we're going to do it. It seems pretty simple to me. So I don't know what more details that we could have 30 days from now that would give it any more clear than was laid out in this. Now, I understand if you don't like it, that's one thing. If you can't support it, I have no problem with that. But I think merely trying to delay it in a procedural way really inhibits the good work that commission has already started. And shame on us if we don't let them do their work.
I remember when this whole nonsense began, and I admit I am 100% against this farcical commission because it is a farce. By the way, it's been tried all over the country. It has never succeeded. We have got a commission here that is perfectly partisan, and we have an RPC that is also perfectly capable of drawing a map, what kind of map they will draw without someone overlooking them each step of the way, and what kind of data input there's going to be, and what kind of oversight is a different question. But one of the things that was presented when we adopted this whole thing was it wasn't going to cost more money. And it's costing more money. I have an objection to that. Since we did it the last time without spending this kind of money, I think this is going to ultimately harm the RPC's reputation because they're going to draw a map that's going to leave people very angry. I think that personally, I would junk the commission altogether, but I don't have the votes to do that. But I'm certainly not going to support spending one thin dime on something where people said it wasn't going to cost money. And I don't believe this is in the correct form either. I'm sorry, but this commission should have its own budget. If we're going to do this, their own budget to spend so that they are directing the expenditure of that money, and there's an accounting. I don't agree that this is okay.
Mr. McGinty.
Then vote against it. Then vote against it. I think that the administrator laid out in detail how this came to be. This was discussed at the last committee of the whole. It had been discussed before. If folks would please hear the details of what was described. I think Greg put it very well, so did Alan. Because we've been through this process so much, I would urge us to just call the doggone question and be done with this because this is political.
Mr. Mosier?
I've been here for 20 years or 19 years, and I've served under two of the most gerrymandered maps that were ever drawn in this county. And if that's what the Democrats want to do again, you've got the votes to do it. But this is the first thing I've seen where I thought anything was fair. And when you go to somebody's front door and throw them in another district just to be political, and throw somebody in another precinct that doesn't even know who you are, with no geographical basis for it, it just goes right back to what's made the people in this county so sick of the politics on this board. I'm not going to be here another time to look at another one, but I can honestly say nothing has changed since 1992.
I want to point out that we're actually just trying to determine whether or not we want this item on the agenda. Let's not forget that. Mr. James?
Steve sort of summed it up, but there's been a lot of discussion on this. I think it's fair. It's what the public has told us in overwhelming numbers. I think we need to move on with it. It's sad that it comes to this. You know, the way I look at it, there's going to be some of us that's going to lose our seats. If it's me, so be it. That's the way life falls. But I don't know why everybody's so upset about it. It's fair. It seems fair. We need to just leave it on there, vote it up or down, like Brendan said, and let's move on with this.
Mr. James, you talk about pulling another item off the agenda?
Yeah, I was going to pull number 6 under the same pretense as Tom's because we don't have a budget amendment.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. If he can pull an agenda item, I can.
You guys are funny.
Okay, Mr. James.
So I'm making a motion that we pull item 6.
Okay, let's, I understand that. What I'm going to do as far as parliamentary, how to consider this, we're going to consider that Mr. Betts wants to pull off that item for item 3. No, sorry, item 5. We'll make that a separate vote. Mr. James, make that a separate vote, i.e. like amendments. And then, is there any disagreement about pulling off, the one I want pulled off, item B4? Are we okay with that? So that would just be part of the,
I kept.
so we want to vote on that individually too. No. Are we okay with that one? Okay.
I'm sorry, point of order. Are we talking about pulling off? Are we talking about pulling off the consent agenda or removing from the actual agenda?
I'm sorry, actual agenda. Did I say consent agenda? No, actual agenda.
We have a motion now which relates to item 5 only. Is that correct?
Well, we will have, let me explain. We will first vote on item 5 as an amendment to the main motion. The main motion is to accept the agenda.
I understand. Okay, so we have a motion. We have a motion to amend the agenda, but specifically the amendment only applies to item 5.
Item 5, and then we'll go the same with item 6. And then we'll vote on the main motion, which would be to accept the agenda and the addenda.
Are we accepting this agenda?
Are we clear on that, Mr.
Point of
Betts?
inquiry.
Yes.
A yes vote removes it from the agenda, a no vote keeps it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
No vote keeps it on.
Yes vote removes it. Okay. So, this will be for item 5. We'll have a roll call. Roll call, please.
Benzel.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Bergson.
Yes.
Betts.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Coert.
Yes.
Holderfield.
No.
James.
No.
Jay.
No.
Jones.
No.
Knott.
No.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Langenheim.
Yes.
McGinty.
No.
Michaels.
No.
Mosier.
No.
Nudo.
No.
Petrie.
Yes.
Quisenberry.
No.
Richards.
Yes.
Rosales.
No.
Schrader.
No.
Alex.
No.
Ammons.
Yes.
Weibel.
Well, it doesn't matter. I vote yes. Motion fails. Okay, we're going on number 6.
I would like to withdraw my motion.
No, we're not going to do it. We're going to vote on it.
You
Sorry.
didn't have a second?
You don't need a second.
Don't need a second here. Sorry. Let's vote on it. All in favor of removing item 6? Yes? All in favor of keeping it would vote no. What was that vote?
No.
Well, that's enough. Motion fails.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the main motion. Is whether to accept the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Date and time of our next regular meetings. First of all, the first meeting next month on the 1st is a county board study session, Tuesday, February 1 at 6 p.m. in this room. The first committee of the whole meeting, Highway and Transportation, County Facilities, Environment and Land Use, on Tuesday, February 8th at 6 p.m. in this room. And the third meeting, but the second committee of the whole meeting for Finance, Policy, Personnel, Appointments, Justice, and Social Services is on Tuesday, February 15th, 2011 at 6 p.m. And the regular county board meetings on February 24th at 7 p.m. in this room on a Thursday. Okay, consent agenda. Any items you wish to take off the consent agenda? Seeing none, roll call.
Got to move the consent.
Oh, sorry, the motion to move consent is moved by Mr. McGinty. Is there a second by Mr. James? Roll call. Thank you, Mr. McGinty.
Benzel.
Yes.
Bergson.
Yes.
Betts.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Coert.
Yes.
Holderfield.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Knott.
Yes.
Kurtz. Langenheim.
Yes.
McGinty.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Mosier.
Yeah.
Nudo.
Yes.
Petrie.
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes.
Richards. Rosales.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Ammons.
Yes.
And Weibel.
Yes, motion carries. Going to public participation. Before we go on to that, I want to remind everybody to turn off their cell phones, otherwise Mr. James will get mad at me. Public participation. Harold Charlo. It might be on. Why don't you talk into it first?
Hello?
Nope, switch it on.
Hello?
Hello, hello?
Was on.
Hello? There we go.
No, it's
Great. My name is Harold Charlo. I live at 3610 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana. And I handed out, and hopefully at every desk, a copy of Google Map. And it represents the Olympian Drive, Lincoln Avenue from a topical view. And well, all I would like you to do tonight is just take a quick look at that map. The subcommittee's commission was to design a road, a proposal that would connect A to X. And just in your mind's eye, if you just take a second and do that, just about everyone that I've talked to about this and shown this to this, there's two criterias. You have to cross the railroad track where it's a single lane, and you want an intersection on the east side of the railroad tracks or on the right-hand side of the paper. Most people that I have talked to and showed this to, they basically take from X, go straight up, and bring A across. It's just that easy. And that's basically the subcommittee's recommendation to the board for the Olympian Drive connecting A and X. This proposal, with a few engineering wrinkles thrown in, which I don't pretend to be an engineer, but this design should take no one's residential property. It would be strictly all farmland. And so I think that's just a tremendous way to do this, is to not take anyone's residential property. Thank you.
Mr. Joe Burns.
My name is Joe Behrens. I live at 3609 North Lincoln, and I'd like to add a few words to what Harold has said. I'm a member of the Olympia Drive Save the Farm land project. There's approximately 24 of us in that group. I've attended the subcommittee meetings, and my understanding of the subcommittee was that Jeff Blue was to draw a proposal up which would extend Lincoln more or less straight north, and then there would be a connection over the railroad tracks. My understanding was that he was to draw up this plan and present it to our group and to Janet Charlo, which is a member of the Squires Farm group. She has approved that, and her brother has. And our group is supporting of this. Like I said, there's approximately 24 in our group. Instead of meeting with us or drawing up this plan, Jeff Blue has met with Shirley Squires numerous times. No one from the subcommittee, Jeff Blue, or any of the other group has ever met with any of our 24 people. They have, like I said, have continually only focused on the one person that supports the plan. Our whole group, the 24, are opposed to it, and several of us would be willing to fight this group, fight the taking of our land. There is a proposal, which is go straight north, that would not take anyone's homes or yards or personal property. It would strictly take farmland, and that's what we would like Jeff Blue to draw up the plan that was agreed on and then present it. When he did meet with Shirley, she told us that he told her that it would take the buildings right behind her house, and that wasn't what we agreed to. We wanted to put the road as close to the railroad tracks as possible. And one time when I was talking to Shirley, we were commenting, we lived right close to her, and how many birds and how much we enjoyed the wildlife when we look out our west windows. And she says, "Oh, I never look out back that way." And what windows she does have back there, she has shutters on, so she can't even see where the road would be. So this would not in any way disturb her, whereas our house faces that direction, and the people next to us recently bought their ground in order to use that for hunting ground. So it would greatly disturb our ground. So we would like to have that plan drawn up as was recommended by the subcommittee, and I'd like to thank you for your listening to the 24 of us that haven't been contacted, or we'd just like to have a say in this. And the only person that supports it has been contacted many times. Do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, we do not allow questions and answers during participation.
Okay, thank you.
Is there further public participation? See none, we'll close that. Okay, communications. I have a couple items here. First of all, you should have the study session agenda for February 1st on your desk. It's also pink, so sorry if you get confused. Also, at the next regular county board meeting, we're supposed to have our annual nursing home report, and we're wondering if we could move that to the second committee of the whole meeting. For one reason is that it saves an extra trip for Mr. Scavato from St. Louis area. Obviously, both are televised, so it's not a problem there, but it would save us some money, and because he would be in town already for a nursing home board meeting. So there is a problem about moving that from the regular meeting back to the second county board committee of the whole meeting. And we'll have that duly announced to the press. We'll let the press know. Anything else? Okay, so we will have the nursing home annual report on February 15th. Items from Ms. Holyfield.
I attended the Convention Visitors Bureau today, and there is something I thought was kind of interesting, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. I'm just going to read what Libby Kasich gave me. It's a participation in the Guinness World Record, and I'm participating and Greg Knott is participating, so I'd like to read this, and then if any of you would like to participate as elected officials, I think it would be great. Greetings. Champaign County has a unique opportunity to play a part in a setting of a new Guinness World Record while celebrating Lincoln heritage and getting some great publicity. February the 11th kicks off the 150th anniversary observance of the Civil War. This day marks Lincoln's journey to Springfield, from Springfield to Washington, D.C., and his infamous 1861 farewell address. Nationwide, people will be reading Lincoln's speech simultaneously at 11 a.m. in an effort to beat the record of 223,636 participants reading aloud from the same document. Already started to participate in the Early American Museum. There are so many more great opportunities for others. Sorry, this is on my cell phone. Others to participate and attract groups to get involved. We'd like to encourage you to set up your own reading for today. And basically what you do is if you would like to participate, you have to have someone that's not a county official be a witness, and you have to have two people, can be in your offices or wherever you're located, and read Lincoln's speech on February the 11th, 2011 at 11 a.m. So if you'd like to participate, let me know, and I will get the appropriate information to you, but I think as elected officials, it would be really great to participate. Thank you.
Okay, other announcements. Mr. Betts.
I just want to thank board members for all of their nice letters of condolences and cards in the passing of my mother. She died laughing, and that's the best way to go, I think. But I do appreciate all the kindness that board members have shared with me. And I'm back in my normal partisan self, and my mother would so richly enjoy it. She was a militantly partisan person who Ralph knew and a few others knew and would appreciate this evening.
Thank you, Tom. Other announcements? Okay. Let's seek the approval of the minutes for the December 6th organizational meeting and the December 21st, 2010 regular county board meeting. Moved by Mr. Rosales, or a second? Second by Mr. J. Discussion. Ms. Petrie.
Yes, I was curious as to why it only said discussion concerning the parliamentarian without any details of the discussion.
I'm sorry, where was this? Could you, which meeting are you talking about? Page is it? Page.
Here.
Mr. Chair, could you have her repeat that?
You say there was such a discussion followed? Is that what?
There was a discussion as to.
Well, this is the question is, I agree it doesn't have much detail, but it does describe what happened. And this is the manner that the clerk's office tends to take these notes in, and it's really up to them. So you really can't say that is, what we look for is inaccuracies in the minutes. So if you think that's inaccurate, we can change it. Detail and lack of detail is not an error, if you know what I mean.
All right, thank you.
Does everybody understand that? I mean, I'm not particularly happy about that, but that's the way it is. We're looking for errors in the minutes. Further discussion. See none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, environment and land use. Mr. Kurtz.
Thank you. Just make a quick comment here. We seem to be getting these renewals for recreation and entertainment licenses over a long period of time. They're due October 1st, and we keep getting them on and on and on into the next year. Mr. Hall has made a and I have discussed it, and we're going to ask that we send out a letter to these businesses so that they know as a heads up, and a copy to the state's attorney, that they cannot continue to run their operation without a proper license. And we're also working on, perhaps if they come in late beyond October 1st, some type of a late fee. So I ask that we move the recreation and entertainment license renewal, Lake of the Woods Bar and Liquors, 204 South Prairie Road, Mohammed, Illinois, January 1st, 2011 through December 31st, 2011. I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Betts. Discussion. See none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Kurtz. Finance, Mr. McGinty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of resolution number 7628, purchases not following purchasing policy, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mosier. Thank you, sir. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion, I'm sorry, Ms. Petrie?
Opposed.
Ms. Petrie, I'm sorry, did you have a comment?
I do have a comment. I don't understand why so many items are listed here, and that's quite a sum of money, and they're not following procedure.
Would our auditor care to step to the stand and explain this?
We talked about this a little bit at the last committee meeting.
I'll just keep asking.
Well, that's quite all right. Yeah,
this list gets shorter and shorter.
That's a good strategy. The vast majority of things on this list are purchases for services from the previous fiscal year that the bills weren't paid in the previous fiscal year. They're being paid now, and that's counter to policy. Now, the services were given to the county, the purchases were made, and we need to pay our bills, but we didn't get these vouchers until after the deadline for the previous fiscal year. And so this report is sort of your way of saying that even though the policy that we needed to have these all in by December 30th wasn't followed by the various departments, these purchases still need to be paid for.
Mr. Faber, would it be fair to say that we cannot control this because a lot of it depends upon the vendors who are dealing with us?
The county departments are actually really good about trying to get in by the deadline, and a lot of this is just vendors that don't know that December 30th is a huge cutoff for us, or if they know, their billing department just doesn't get around to it. Most of this is departments acting swiftly as soon as they get the bills from the vendors, but it's still not swift enough to meet the requirements of policy.
Mr. Quisenberg. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Petrie.
Just a follow-up then to help my grouchiness and my questioning. Could there be a column that indicates when the vendor's bill came in? That would be very helpful in relationship to seeing when it's paid. And this list may not, in actuality, look quite as long as it presents itself on these 4 pages.
Right. There is a column that tells you, it says VRPO date, and that tells you when our office received the voucher, that date there.
Now, it doesn't tell me when the bill
No, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. But that's something we can add, if that's something board members want to see, specifically for these previous year expenditures in the current year. Is that?
Yeah. Well, it would be very helpful, so maybe people are not as egregiously tardy as these pages make me think they are.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Quisenberg?
Yeah, I understand the logistical issue of our arbitrary ending of the budget year. Are there any on this list that you would call out as not being just a side effect of that logistical issue?
Well, on the first page, the first 8 are issues other than that. Everything after those first 8 are all just previous fiscal year being paid out of this fiscal year.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Michaels.
Didn't we say there was a time frame for individuals to be turning these in, or is there not a time frame?
There is, and for travel vouchers, which I think is what you're probably thinking of,
Right, 'cause I see some
we have a
of those.
60-day window where we just don't pay it after 60 days.
I would think that most of the phone companies and the credit card companies, you'd get that bill by the beginning of the next month.
You would certainly
And we have
think.
November bills on here that we surely would have got a statement in December and paid in December.
I agree.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. McGinty.
I recommend adoption of resolution number 7629, payment of claims authorization, and I so move.
Second by Mr. James. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Motion carries.
Recommend adoption of resolution number 7630 to budget amendment, zoning and enforcement for an increased appropriation of $8,045, increased revenue of $8325 in consideration of a grant for a building code feasibility study received through the Regional Planning Commission, and I so move.
Second by Ms. Ammons. Discussion. Mr. James.
If I remember at our meeting, and Pius, you and I talked about this a little bit, and I may be, hang on a minute, let me think here.
Rare moment.
Yeah, well, forget what I was going to say, forget it.
We talked about something else. Discussion, further discussion on this item.
I was thinking something else.
Yes, you were. Mr. Mosier.
I'd like to know where this is going to lead us as far as building codes in the county.
I think that's exactly what we will find out. That's what we'll find out. It would tell us that. It's a feasibility study.
My fear is that somebody's going to adopt some building codes in the county that farmers can't put up.
Well, then, as you probably something, Mr. McGinty, vote no against it if that happens. Ms. Holyfield, do you have a comment?
No.
Okay.
Surprisingly, no.
Okay, further discussion. Mr. Nudo.
Well, the last time we met Committee of the Whole, Susan didn't have a whole lot of detail on that, and I think John's here tonight. I asked him earlier this afternoon, if we had more detail about what this is really going to be studying, and if there's something he can contribute tonight, it would be helpful for my vote.
John, you want to say a few words as best as you can?
Well, I did have a discussion with Mr. Nudo this afternoon, and I just assured him that it's my understanding that the county doesn't really have a lot of discretion on what building codes you could or could not adopt. It's actually very restrained. It essentially, in fact, I only know of one. It's the International Building Code. That code already has some energy saving portions to it. But I believe the county would have limited authority to go beyond what is already contained in a national code. Counties don't have the authority to cook up their own building codes. So folks that might have a concern about this resulting in some very unusual, strange code, state law wouldn't permit that to happen. As to how extensive the energy conserving features of this code might be, it's my expectation that it would be what is already in the International Building Code. But again, frankly, myself, I haven't spent a lot of time on this yet. I'm waiting to see what this study results in, but that's my understanding about how much discretion the county would have.
Mr. Nudo.
So just as a follow-up, if we have very little ability to add to whatever we find in this study, what are we wasting the government's money for?
Good point.
And why are we studying whatever we're supposed to be looking at if we're restrained by the Boca Code, which we're going to be adopting in July? What else could, if we cannot add to what we're going to find from this study, why did we file for the grant, and why are we wasting this money?
Could I?
Sure.
Go ahead.
That's why I asked.
When the RPC staff brought this to my attention, I was really happy to see it, because I would never want the county board to adopt any code if you didn't do a feasibility study to see what effects it would have on your own budget, your own staffing in whatever department you decide to make responsible for the code. You need to know how much that's going to cost. And getting a grant to pay most of the costs of that study, I know there's different ways to look at grant money, but a building code was one of the recommendations in the LRMP. I wouldn't recommend you adopt it before you do a study like this. Now, I think, I can't remember the exact percentage, but certainly most of that is going to be paid for in this grant.
I think about 80% or so.
Yeah.
Just as a follow-up, then the intent of the study is going to be the ramification of the costs of what we institute with Boca Code. In other words, we won't see anything additional come on from this study other than what the ramifications of the cost to the end user and to the department's going to be.
That's my expectation. I'm not the one that's doing the study. It's being done by the RPC, but if that study doesn't have that, I don't see what use it would be to you, frankly.
Ms. Petrie.
I need further clarification. It was my understanding of this code that the county is going to start having to use on the 1st of July needs to be adopted as it is. What are these flexibilities that this feasibility study is going to help us with?
The change in July is it's a change in state law.
Right.
And the only change that law will have on our office is we'll have to get a statement from, let's say, whoever builds the commercial building before they can occupy it. They're going to have to submit a statement to us. It's not a code that the county adopts. The only enforcement per se is making sure we get the certification before we allow occupancy. We have no discretion in that. We have to do that. As a practical matter, that really shouldn't add that many costs in our department.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. James?
I remembered my question now the discussion's come on. Geez, them pills kick in slow. My question, following up on that then, so basically this feasibility study would be to see exactly what type of staffing you would need, whether it be electricians, plumbing, and in what fields and what tools they would need to do the job that they need to do based on the new codes that we're going to have to follow. Oh, it's clear. Got it.
Further discussion? Was there somebody, Mr. Mosier?
When you go to a bank and try to get a mortgage on a house, you're going to have an inspection before you're ever going to get that mortgage granted. I don't know what kind of codes they use, but I've got a fear of what happened to my neighbor that built a shed in the 1.5 miles of Urbana, and he ended up having to wire the thing in conduit and couldn't put a floor drain in it, and it ended up costing him $90,000 instead of $60,000. And I'm in the same situation right now. I'm 1/2 mile from St. Joe's, 1.5 miles, and 1/4 mile from Urbana. And I want to put up a building, and I priced them today, and when you're going to spend $50,000 for a bare structure for storage of farm equipment that's got to get wired, you put everything in conduit. Lloyd knows this, and we've got 3-phase power out there. What are we going to get into? And it worries me that once the barn doors open to this kind of thing, it's going to get mighty expensive to even look at a building, whether it's commercial or whether it's farm, because some of these farm buildings have been turned into commercial. And I know in a couple of cases they didn't get sold because of the cost that it was going to be to bring it up to commercial grade. And no lender is going to go out and let you buy something, whether it's a house or a commercial building, without getting it electrical inspector and a plumbing inspector, they're not going to make a loan on something that's going to turn into a dead horse. And it gets to be a real burden on us when we've got to deal with the EPA about $1,300 gallon storage on your farm without a dike. I mean, these regulations are just getting to the point we got to deal with DOT on a grain truck that's 40 years old and keep a log, and all this is just piling up, costing money that doesn't do anybody any good. And that's my fear of even looking at this thing.
Mr. Mosier, if I could, the first time you mentioned the story about your neighbor, I thought I knew who you were talking about, and I followed up, and I didn't find that neighbor had to do that. I'd be happy to follow up again, because I don't understand how any municipality applies a standard like that on something in the unincorporated area unless there's an annexation agreement that they had to have.
He had to do it because he had to get a subdivision done to get an acre of land from his mother to build that building on, and that drug her ban into it.
So that was an annexation agreement, and that's fair game in an annexation agreement. I don't know if he knew that when he signed the annexation agreement, but we really can't do anything about that.
Well, if he'd have known what he had to do then, he would have just put it up and never even asked you.
Okay, we're wandering off here a little bit. Mr. J.
I would agree with my colleague, Mr. Mosier. I think we ought to leave the barn door closed, not even open it. I don't think that we have any business getting into the zoning or the building code business. I think it's a Pandora's box. I think it'll cost us a lot. You don't have, when and if it happens, you don't have the staff or the money to do it. I know this is just a feasibility study, but this is just the first step to say, well, we need to do this now. We spent $8,000 on a feasibility study. And what is our portion of this? $8,000 is the grant. How much is it costing the county?
Around $2,000, I believe.
Yeah, it's around, I think a little more than 2,000. I can't recall.
So it isn't free?
No, that's right.
Thank you.
Further discussion. Ms. Amons.
I'll just say I was certainly, I had a visitor today come to me about an apartment complex once again that is not up to code. And these are largely either working, low-income areas. And we have, unfortunately, outside of the issue with the farmers, but we do have this issue in other parts of the county where people are either dying in fires, as we saw on the cover of the News Gazette 2 weeks ago, which was quite disturbing, or being removed from the places of which they can afford to dwell because there is no code. And the slum landlords in those areas get away with it, and they file bankruptcy, and then the people are put out, and then they come to people like me and say, can you help us? I think the county has a greater responsibility to look at this issue, and that's why I believe it's called feasibility. But we have a greater issue than just one segment of the community to consider here. And I think to not do at least a feasibility study, and we've already, of course, addressed that is part of our plan in the LMRP, and not do the study is as disingenuous as some of the other issues we've looked at and talked about tonight.
Mr. James?
I think you're absolutely right. We're getting off track. This is just a feasibility study, so John's staff can look at things, or they would look and see his staffing. It has nothing to do, the state codes are coming in, the codes are there, correct, John? It's just how they would be enforced and what type of staffing he would need. So this has nothing to do with what's going to come down the pike. Those laws are going to be on the books. They're going to be enforced one way or the other. This is just to help John's department to, sort of like when we reorganize this board and fight over money. That's what John's doing, to get some money to help him fight over it.
I would point out that this feasibility study is going to be done in RPC, although it'll come back to us. Ms. Holyfield.
I believe that we do have, we should have life safety regulations that are enforceable, because then with those in place, then we can potentially prevent some of these dangerous living circumstances that people are habitating. What I understood this was basically a feasibility study regarding the R factors in buildings. Now, am I incorrect in it's specifically geared for energy, or is it for enforcing life safety? I mean, maybe that also helps. Is it, as Stan said, just basically out there to determine what rules and regulations, aside from BOCA, or how we're going to implement these rules and regulations?
It's principally a study for a building code. Because the grant is an energy grant, they did add, the language suggests that energy is an important part of it, and we may have to have a special add-on for energy, but at its basis, it is a feasibility study for a building code, and a building code applies to every building that the county board wants to make it apply to. It includes life safety. It includes energy. Certainly, any modern code has an energy conservation standard in it, and all the other aspects of a building code. So it's not just for energy. At the heart, it's a building code. And in fact, I've been trying to get a better understanding from the RPC why there is so much talk of energy. But there may have to be a special part of the study about, some kind of energy code that goes beyond the international building code. But again, my understanding is we're rather restricted in how far beyond that we can go anyhow.
Just a follow-up, have you and anyone in your office as well as RPC had the opportunity to read through the BOCA code?
Well, the International Building Code is so thick, I don't know of anybody who reads it until they absolutely have to. I've read certain parts of it, and I've used it in the past, but not recently. Did you have a question?
No, I wanted to find out, because the BOCA codes are, you can utilize those through municipalities to enforce building codes. So this is going to be something that's completely different than BOCA code, so we're adding to it?
Okay, well, there is no BOCA code anymore. It's the International Building Code.
Pardon me.
And that's the starting point for this study, and hopefully the ending point as well.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Mr. Jay.
Just very quickly, we need not to get carried away. There are already life safety codes in the state of Illinois. The problem of it is getting them enforced. And that's what's been the issue. And that's why I'm concerned that we're going to end up in enforcement business that we have no business in.
Further discussion. I just want to point out, Mr. Carter, get to you in a second. I want to point out that the actual budget amendment was not in the package. It's in this handout here. There are other budget amendments in here, but all the others were on the consent agenda. So it's just the top one you have to be concerned about for this meeting. Mr. Carter.
Yeah. I know what Mr. Moses is going through, but when you have people that don't live up to the obligation when they have rental property and let people get burned up or get harmed them, this is what happens. And it is a way to have a safety code without going overboard. Even some of your inspectors, I think, they go overboard sometimes. They go beyond what the National Electric Code they expect of them, and which you can get that out of it. But in the city, if your electrical not up to code, they won't write your insurance policy. I don't know if you all know that or not.
That's in the county too.
But if he come in your house and your box is not up to code, you got to fix that before he even consider writing you insurance on your own property. And I had to get a permit to do my own roofing. I'm also a carpenter. And I had to get a permit to even work on my own house. But I'm a good citizen, so I went on and did it, and it worked out all right. But you get your money back. if you ever sell that property, if you bring it up to what it's supposed to be, you get your money back. But it's the investment you have to make up front. And I know it's a hardship for a lot of people, but when you have people won't keep the property up and people go and file complaints against them, then the state or the city or somebody have to step in and do something. That's what caused all these problems.
Mr. Nudo.
Mr. Hall, the new international code only applies to newly constructed buildings, correct?
Yes.
So some of the issues about life safety on existing buildings, we have a nuisance which you helped us put together, which I think fits, Carol's concerns. But, exactly, thank you. So I just want to be clear that everybody understands that the new international code only applies to newly constructed buildings.
And they do have a related code for existing buildings that goes along with their property maintenance code. So I hope all of those things can be part of this feasibility study. So you know how much, a full set would, staffing for a full set or staffing just for the building code.
Further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Benzel?
Yes.
Bergson?
Yes.
Betts?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Holderfield?
Yes.
James?
No.
Jay?
No.
Jones?
Yes.
Knott?
No.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Langenheim?
Yes.
McGinty?
Yes.
Michaels?
No.
Mosier?
No.
Nudo?
No.
Petrie?
Yes.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ammons?
Yes.
Weibel?
Yes. Motion carries by exactly 18 votes.
Item number 4 has been removed. Item number 5, I recommend adoption of resolution number 7632 authorizing appropriation of resources to the Champaign County Redistricting Commission, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. J. Let the discussion begin. Mr. Betts.
I oppose the resolution for the same reasons that I stated earlier, but I would add some additional reasons. One of the things I'm concerned about, and I do like the fact that the members of the commission at least can have access to a computer and the data so that they can work on it. At least that's part of this. I'm a little concerned, and maybe someone can clarify this, can the public, individual members of the public, go on that computer to check that data and determine whether it's being done accurately, and can they draw their own map? I know the last time around in the clerk's office, people walked in and drew their own map. So I'd like that answered.
You want to do it?
The intent is you're only dealing in this resolution with appropriating resources to the redistricting commission, but that computer will be set up and will be available. And if this board wants to make it available to the public, it can. An individual would be able to come in and look at the information. And at this point, Mr. Levy may have to help me, but I'm not sure that redistricting commission maps would be saved for them to look at, but they could certainly look at drawing maps with the software available, and the data from the Census Bureau would be there for them to also use.
Well, let's ask Mr. Levy, is it possible that when maps are produced by the commission, and certainly the ones they plan on, bringing to the board, could they be put up onto that server so that people could look at them and, play with the data, so to speak?
I believe that's possible. I think that would be a question for the commission, what they want to have happen, but it is possible.
Go ahead.
I don't believe it's a question for the commission, because one of the things, again, when this resolution was originally passed, was there would be public input. The public would be able to be a part of this every step of the way and look at the data, look at the information. This is up to the county board, and I think part of this...
I would concur with you, Mr. Betts.
I guess I would offer, as part of... I don't support this resolution, but I think we need to make it crystal clear that the public has a right to use these computers that are going to be at administrative services and have it available to the public and the press, the maps and the data, so that if, again, 10 years ago, the public could go in a clerk's office and draft a map, and at least 3 or 4 entities did it, I think they should be able to do the same thing this time, since that was, the premise was that this was going to be so very public.
Again, Ms. Levy, you say that's possible?
Yes, that is not in the proposal from RPC, because that would cost us money to support, and that's the reason that it was not put in there. But it is possible, I guess, in my opinion. But I also believe that might be county resources to make that happen.
The resources that are available to the public would be the computer with the software, mapping software loaded on it, with the census data on it. So if someone from the public wanted to come in and draw their own map, they could, right?
Right.
That is possible without allocating additional resources.
Can we state that in this resolution?
This resolution is about appropriating resources to the commission. I think it's at the county board's discretion to determine how you want to make this available to the public. But if you want to do it in this resolution, I suppose that you can. You could also just give separate direction that the resources be made available to the public.
I would then bring amendment to Resolution 7632 to state, after the last "now therefore it be resolved," that in addition to the commission members having access to the computer and software during administrative services hours, that members of the public shall also have access to the computer and the software for developing maps and checking the work of commission members and the RPC.
Second.
Or a second? Second one, Mr. Kurtz. Okay. Discussion now is on the amendment by Mr. Betts. Mr. Nudo.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think that has been discussed at the commission level, and that I think there was some interest by commission members, and so I think that is a good thing. However, I would make sure that anybody using that map software adhere to the same rules that we have for the commission, and that is they cannot bring in voting patterns, voting census. That is the charge of the commission, and they are not to use voting patterns to draw lines. And so, therefore, I don't know what that means in terms of a person going into a room without any kind of anybody looking at what they're bringing in or whatever it is. Secondly, I spoke with Andrew last week about a request from an outside interest. If they brought in a map, would he be able to take a look at it and make sure it fits the guidelines of the commission? And he indicated, I believe, that could be done. So that, again, we follow the absolute rules of what we set up for the commission. And I have no problem with outside entities coming in and playing with the map, but I do have a problem if they use voting patterns in looking at the map.
Mr. Chairman.
Well,
constitutional point of order.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Betts.
We can bind the commission a million ways to one. What we cannot do is bind the individual's First Amendment right to use data. If we're allowing the public in there or the press or anyone else to do this, you can't tell them what information that they can have in their head or in their hand. You've got a clear-cut First Amendment and 14th Amendment problem. You'll never overcome that.
I would concur. We have given the commission directions. We cannot apply that to the citizen who wishes to put together a map that they could then bring to the commission. I would concur. Mr. Nudo, I'll let you respond.
I would dispute that and ask the state's attorney's opinion on that. I know you're a lawyer, Tom, but that doesn't mean that I agree with it. And quite frankly, the ability for the map to be drawn by the commission is set up so that it doesn't have these political persuasions done. Now, that map that you just described, Mr. Betts, can be brought directly to the county board at the appropriate time. But it's not something the commission should consider when it is giving its final decision on a map to the county board, and that's clear. That is clear. You could, that commission is supposed to draw the map and use it only by the guidelines of statistical analysis, not voting patterns. So if they want to draw a map and use voting patterns, they could bring it to the county board as another map to be considered, but it certainly is not something the commission should consider.
I mean, Mr. Noodle, let me ask you a question. Playing devil's advocate here. A person walks into the room and uses the computer. They've got all the political boundaries memorized. You're in there watching them. How do you know he's using them or not, or this person using them or not? I don't think you can. It's impossible.
You know,
How
I
do you
would say,
enforce
if
it?
I were the commission head, I would say that we would have a written rule that everybody signs on the commission that they do not do that with their own, and it's just an honor system. But what I said earlier was, I have no problem if they use the mapping system to draw it up. I have a problem if it is used to be introduced to influence the commission. The commission has a charge to do it exactly the way the resolution was written. So anything that was introduced by the Republicans or the Democrats and given to the commission is contrary to what the resolution calls for. So if they want to use it and bring it to the county board at the time that maps are being considered, more power to them.
Mr. Langenheim.
I'm outraged by the suggestion that this commission, in addition to being called upon to present a map, is given the power to determine how anybody else should present a map.
Mr. Betts.
I don't care whether the people who in the public present what they do on that computer to the commission or not. I don't care whether they present it to the commission. I think they have a right to come on. I have looked at 4 maps already. I can tell you without going into the data exactly what the results are going to be. I've seen them already. So I don't need all the data. I know the precincts off the top of my head. Many people do. They don't need the data. I will say this, I think the public should be allowed to use and have access to that computer. I don't care what kind of extra data they bring in. I agree with Mr. Nudo that commission is mandated to produce a map or according to those guidelines that are provided. It doesn't stop the public from producing their own maps. The last time around we had numerous maps that people presented and some were good, some were bad. I don't have a problem with what he's saying. I want the access by the public to that process. And that was one of the premises of this whole thing. Now, I think that the commission itself has been given a completely contradictory mission in that they're not to look at political data, but they're supposed to try to produce one of the goals, competitive districts, which is virtually impossible without looking at the data, so they're going to have fun doing it. But, you know, that's part of the impossibility that they're facing, and more power to them. I just want the public to be able to use these computer terminals as they were allowed the last time.
Mr. McGinty.
I do kind of wish that we'd all get an opportunity to speak before the multiple times with some of the folks. With that said, regarding this particular amendment, I do not have any problem with allowing the public to use the same equipment and data that's made available to the commission. My primary concern is getting in the way of the work of the commission. They're on a pretty tight timeline, and if there were priorities to be made with regard to the availability of the computer during those hours, I would encourage commission members to have priority during that time. I disagree with Mr. Nudo that we should guide individuals by the standards set forth by this board in the resolution. I don't care what other folks come up with. I think that that's certainly their right. But with regard to availability of the system, I worry about that getting quite a bit of use by folks who can. I'm a geek. I can squat at a computer for a long time, and so I would, prefer that the work of the commission be done in a timely manner.
I think we'd probably arrange a schedule where you'd have to obviously schedule, and then we'd have to have time limits, like you can't, 2 hours or something, no more than 2 hours, something like that. Ms. Holderfield.
Has there been any information prohibiting the public from utilizing any of this information?
I'm not sure what you mean.
What I mean is there anything in writing that states that the public cannot come in and utilize any of this information?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Ms. Petrie.
May I ask Andrew an information question? Andrew, the software that you are anticipating using for the project, or the GIS consortium anticipating using for the project, is this open source?
What's listed in the packet is not open source. It's ArcGIS, and a tool that is used in ArcGIS that is not open source. There is software available that we can recommend if people are interested in. We are looking at using that for a portion of the process, but we have not solidified that yet.
Well, since we're having this conversation of openness and transparency for all the citizens within the county, maybe open source probably might be a better way to go. Then people can do this at their own computers, and this issue that we're really delving into may not be of such significance. Not everybody has that kind of computer at home, but that might help moderate some of this conversation.
Sure, and just to respond to that, the issue that we are currently having with our open source software that we found is that it's very technically difficult to use. It is possible, but it is it's essentially computer programming. So it's not an interface where you can click on something and move it around. You're typing in to adjust a map, which is incredibly difficult.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Schrader.
Thank you. As someone who's on the commission, I just want to respond to this, and I don't have a problem with this amendment. What I want to say is the commission knows its boundaries, and it's not appropriate for the commission to be appropriating resources as a computer in the county clerk's office. That's this county board's responsibility as far as I'm concerned. So if this is something we've done before and this is open to the public, fine. Just with the idea that these maps have to go through the criteria that's been set for this commission. And the commission has a criteria, and that's how any map is going to be judged, through the criteria. So I don't have a problem. And if the county board wants to expand and wants to put the resources out, fine. But that's not the commission's job.
Mr. Knott.
You know, the interesting point about this discussion, it absolutely proves why we need this commission, and to set it aside because how difficult, as Tom and I have talked before, drawing a map is the most political thing that's usually done in any body. And I think this illustrates exactly why we have done this commission. We gave them some parameters, let them do their work and their job, and they'll come back with something. And on that, I'll call the question on the amendment.
Second, Mr. James. All in favor? Calling question on the amendment.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So, the amendment by Mr. Betts. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The amendment passes. We're now back to the main motion. Discussion on that. Mr. Alex.
I wanted to follow up on a couple of things. I'll only talk once, so if you'll indulge me, I'll ask both questions at the same time. The first is the county administrator. Can you clarify for us, this is neither a budget transfer nor a budget amendment?
That's correct.
It is essentially a directive to the RPC and to the GIS consortium with regard to how to use funds that we have already allocated to them?
That's correct.
And my other question is, I guess not a question, but a comment. I would hope that another member, another board member who's on the redistricting commission would speak to a point that I raised during the committee of the whole meeting, which was that there have been suggestions that there may be other resources in the community that we should be looking at to assist with this process, including but not limited to those from the University of Illinois. I believe that was a suggestion that Ms. Petrie brought up. And I was wondering if anyone from the county board who's on the redistricting commission could speak to whether there have been any efforts to investigate alternatives or additions to RPC.
Do Mr. Richards and Mr. Schrader want to respond to that? You don't have to. It's up to you.
Sure.
Mr. Richards.
I'll take it. As far as I know, there have not been any holistic alternatives looked into, as has been talked about before. I and Ms. Petrie have talked about, and Ms. Petrie has looked into, making sure that we get to some of these hearings, some experts from the university, various professions, disciplines, political science, sociology, geography. But as far as having alternatives to this proposal, having a proposal from somebody at the university to do this instead of RPC, the commission has not looked at that, and we do not have that at this time.
To answer your question, any further questions, Mr. Alex?
No.
Ms. Petrie?
Just so this is in the public record, since I'm not on the on the commission, I did attend a lecture today at the Illinois Sustainability Technology Center. It was politics and the science in confronting environmental change, but the point of it is that the speaker, Steve Seitz, who's a professor at the Computational Modeling Laboratory and the Department of Political Science, was dead on the topic of the redistricting commission. Here's an expert at the university. In addition, in the audience at this lecture was Professor Onal, who is directly doing research as we speak on redistricting commissions, gave a presentation to our state legislature, is associated with the Institute of Government, has a grant from the Institute of Government to do this research, and we are not tapping into these resources at the university, which continues to concern me. And I still cannot support the funding of this. On one hand, I'm trying to figure out how to make it a better commission. On the other hand, I still have trouble about the funding. As I said the last time, the reason I have trouble about the funding is that was not part of the original conversation, and there are no caps mentioned in this resolution as to the total amount of money that we would be willing to allocate. There is an amount of money in the description of the proposal, but there's no cap. So the redistricting commission could be coming back to the county board after they go through the original amount of money stated in the proposal and ask for some more money.
I would point out that the resolution does contain caps. Yes, it does. Ms. Berkson.
I'm still concerned. We have never appropriated money for the commission. We created the commission. We appropriated money on other grounds to these other two agencies, and the commission went to them and decided how much their appropriation should be. And now they're asking us to second it. But it seems to me that we should appropriate the money to the commission and decide how much it should be.
Mr. Benzel.
Benzel, you forgot my name.
Yeah, I got it. I did say I got the right name, didn't I?
You're blocked. I see that.
Yeah. I was testing you, too.
Well, I was at the commission meeting where we talked about how we were going to budget this because I'm on the commission. I don't recall seeing her there. But we did not create this budget. We asked RPC what kind of budget would we be looking at? What do they need to be able to help us do this job? Because we don't have the resources without them right now. So we didn't tell them what this was going to be. We asked them, what is it going to cost us to be able to get this done? So I would appreciate it if people are going to condemn us if they would get their facts straight first.
Further discussion.
Roll call.
Do we want a roll call, folks? Roll call it is. Okay, let's have a roll call.
Benzel?
Yes.
Excuse me. Berkson?
No.
Betts?
No.
Carter?
No.
Cowart?
No.
Holderfield?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Knott?
Yes.
Kurtz?
No.
Langenheim?
No.
McGinty?
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Mosier,
Yes.
Nudo,
Yes.
Petrie,
No.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Richards, Rosales,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Ammons,
No.
Weibel.
Yes, motion carries.
Item number 6, I recommend adoption of resolution number 7633, authorizing agreement with the Land of Lincoln Legal Assistance Foundation, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kurtz. Discussion. Ms. Holdenfield.
When we originally discussed this, I did have a couple things that I'd like to have added to it. So I'd like to make a motion to amend. There is no clarification on line number 2. Champaign County will make 2 payments of $2,500 each. There is clarification A and B, A of course being $1,500 from the County Law Library Fund, and then $1,000 coming from the Champaign County Board General Corporate Fund. But there's no clarification as to where the $2,500, the other second half, is coming from. So I'd like that added in, if we can add the other $2,500 and give a specific, or am I missing something? Right, but where are the funds coming from? So we're at two different times. Champaign County is giving $2,000, and the second time the $1,500 is coming from the law library. So $3,000 specifically. Is that what that's stating?
There will be 2 payments of $2,500 each when the county receives the quarterly payment requests. Each invoice will be paid $1,500 from the Law Library Fund, $1,000 from the county board budget, for a total of $2,500 for each quarterly invoice.
Okay.
Or like you said, be $3,000 from the Law Library Fund and $2,000 from the General Corporate Fund.
And the Law Library Fund, and where do those funds come from directly?
It's a fee.
It's a fee that is
It's
paid to
assessed
the...
by the court system.
Assessed by the court system. Okay. And then the other thing that I would like added to this would be that this is a one-time funding and there will be no other funds provided by Champaign County.
I'm afraid we cannot do that.
And why is that?
Because we can't say that, because whatever we do now, something can undo. So we can't say you're not going to do this. Does that make sense? We do say it's going to be one time. I agree with that part. We can't say you can't do it again, though.
So this is
we
a
cannot
one...
bind a future board from doing something like that, or even ourselves.
Okay, so we can't say that
We can say
specifically. You
we can
cannot
say we're doing it
specifically say
this
that
year.
this is...
We're doing it this year. We can say that. And
Okay.
we are saying that.
We are saying that by one time, a one-time donation?
It says we have a finite period. It goes to October 15th, I think.
Pretty clear.
It's a finite period.
Okay, so they can come back to us again, and that's what this
Sure.
basically leaves open, is that the
anybody
Land
can
of
do that,
Lincoln
though.
Legal Assistance can then come back to Champaign County Board because we set the precedence that we've given it once, correct?
Repeat that, please. Could you repeat that, please?
So we're setting a precedent that basically we're saying this is a one-time donation basically to the Land of Lincoln for the help desk, and that we're setting a precedent that we're giving this money one time, so it doesn't prohibit the Land of Lincoln from coming back to the county board and requesting the same amount of money, correct?
I'd say that's the sense of the resolution. We're not saying it in a resolution. I mean, it is a one-time transfer, or exactly what it is, but, it doesn't say it can't be done again, because we cannot legally do that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Kurtz.
This is a one-time temporary bridge to keep the help desk open. Each and every entity, RPC, Land of Lincoln, the courthouse, Roger Holland, and Linda Frank all understand that this is a one-time bridge, and we will sit down as a committee and try to work out a more permanent solution that does not include dollars from the county board.
Is it possible then to put that in there?
No.
You cannot. You can't
No.
even put any type of that
We
language.
cannot, we cannot do that.
Okay.
Ms. Ammons?
I just wanted to say that not only can Mr. Kurtz not say what he just said, but
Well, I think-
any department could come to us and ask us for anything.
Sure.
And we
Sure.
can say yes or no.
I think we're hearing Mr. Kurtz's opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. James, your opinion, please.
Please, just remember, once they put something through or a tax, never goes away.
Mr. Richards.
Let me just speak to Mrs. Holderfeld's concerns and say that when Justice does look at whether we want to extend this or not after October 15th, and of course the board will have to vote on that, it may or may not look like this. This certainly will not be the only solution for funding looked at for after October 15th. So I think that we can basically cover her concerns on that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That is all from finance.
Thank you, Mr. McGinty. Policy Personnel Appointments, Ms. Ammons. You have 2 items.
We do. We have one on an addendum. The first item for policy is adoption of resolution number 7639, appointing Ms. Jennifer Putnam to the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District Board. And I move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Betts. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
On the agenda, we have presentation by Champaign County Convention and Visitors Bureau for the county boards.
She gonna go from there? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Janie Luce. I'm the president and CEO of the Champaign County Convention and Visitors Bureau. This is my first county board meeting. Very interesting, I have to say. So we're gonna lighten it up, hopefully, a little bit for you. Tonight, we want to talk about the positive impact of tourism on Champaign County. And tourism impacts every person and business in some way. America benefits from $1.7 trillion in economic output generated by travelers. And more than 10 million people depend on travel for their jobs. In challenging economic times, promoting and increasing travel is a proven way to boost the economy. Travelers come to our area and spend money on hotels, restaurants, businesses, and attractions. Then they return home and we don't pay for their education, medical care, etc. That's a good thing to have people come here and spend money in our community. To illustrate this point, I'd like to show you a quick 2-minute video produced by the Illinois Office of Tourism that shows how this impacts business sustainability. When thinking tourism, most think about the 3,469 hotel rooms in Champaign County, or the major attractions, University of Illinois, Cranert, the Early American Museum, the Japan House, the Orpheum, the Chanute Air Museum, Urbana Market at the Square. But we're talking jobs. We're talking the unsung heroes, such as the florist who provides the flowers for an event at the Starkle Planetarium, the tent supplier for special events like Downtown Festival of the Arts, the wait staff at restaurants like Silver Creek, the farmer who provides food for hotels. These are created jobs as a direct economic benefit of travel and tourism. From the economic impact of travel in Illinois County, Champaign County generated in 2008 over $273 million in travel expenditures, which was a 12% increase over the previous year, and over $57 million in travel-generated payroll and employment, which was a 9% increase over the previous year. Following several years of decline, U.S. travel is projecting modest increases in both business and leisure travel this year, although it will take longer to get back to or surpass the spending level of a few years ago. So what's the role of the Convention and Visitors Bureau? A CVB can be described through 5 primary functions: an economic driver generating new income, employment, taxes contributing to a more diversified local economy. 2, a community marketer, communicating the most appropriate destination image, attractions, and facilities to targeted visitor markets. 3, an industry coordinator, providing a clear focus and encouraging less industry fragmentation so as to share in the growing benefits of tourism. 4, a quasi-public representative, adding legitimacy for the industry and protection to individual and group visitors. And 5, a builder of community pride by enhancing quality of life and acting as the main flag carrier for residents and visitors alike. So how are we funded? We receive the majority of our funding from tourism grants through the Illinois Office of Tourism, which is a reinvestment of state hotel tax dollars. We must provide a local grant match through governmental agencies that reinvest local hotel tax dollars, or those that invest in bringing money to this area. We also utilize community tourism partnerships to deliver our mission of creating economic development for Champaign County, which those efforts are becoming increasingly important as state grant dollars continue to decrease. So how does the CVB facilitate economic impact for our area? We promote the hotels for overnight stays to generate additional hotel-motel tax, meetings, conferences, sport tournaments, group tours, reunions, arts and culture, research initiatives. We promote the attractions to bring people to this area for business, recreational, or leisure travel. We promote all the meeting space at the hotels and other meeting facilities, along with full itineraries to complement their educational sessions while they're here. We promote Champaign County information in 70,000 visitor guides, which I appreciate Stephanie bringing those so that you all have a new copy. This is our brand new edition that just came out last week. 40,000 area maps. We'll make those available online with software that works. No, I'm just going there. The web, all outreach events, trade shows, sales blitzes, restaurant dining discount sheets for events, conferences, etc. We partner with 40 North, the Arts Council, for an increased emphasis on arts and cultural tourism, along with serving as an important liaison to the arts community in programming and business development. We promote headliner events, the Christie Clinic Illinois Marathon, Taste of CU, Urbana Sweet Corn Festival, Roger Ebert Film Festival, the Half Century Progress Show in Rantoul, the Ag Expo currently happening at Gordyville, IHSA football, wrestling, so many more. We promote historical tourism with podcast walking tours of downtown Champaign or Main Street, Urbana, along with the Champaign County Historical Museum and the new courthouse Lincoln exhibit. We promote agritourism with the Tony Knoll Ag Technology Application Center at Parkland, Market at the Square, South Farms, the Pollinatarium, the Ag Expo, lots of things in that area. We promote ecotourism with our green community, alternative modes of transportation, and the best drinking water around. And we promote technotourism as the Silicon Prairie with the U of I Research Park, Beckman Institute, and the upcoming Blue Waters. So what's a new direction in moving for the CVB? You can see some of our accomplishments in the last fiscal year as highlighted in the 2009-10 annual report. And I'd like to point out that we have a new team in place. After I just started just over a year ago, I was joined by Libby Kasich, daughter-in-law, marketing and sales director. She started last April. Before she got married, she still just got, yeah. Kit McDaniel, sports and events director, and Corey Hatfield, sales director, who both started last August. And we joined longer-term team members, Angela Ingerson, our leisure tourism director, and Delray Smith, customer service assistant. We've created information portals around the county where visitors and residents can get information. The Illinois Terminal is the central customer service center, so those coming in by bus or train. Willard Airport is the South Customer Service Center. Lincoln Square is the East Customer Service Center, and a location in Rantoul that we're working on for the North Customer Service Center. We created a new location for the Tourist Information Center in the food court at Marketplace Shopping Center. And did you know there's over 10 million visits to Marketplace annually? A lot of people hit Marketplace. We're working to create a new campus welcome center at the Alice Campbell Alumni Center to engage prospective U of I students, families, and alumni. We're looking to continue the brand Champaign County as a micro-urban destination with a focus on arts and entertainment, sports, technology, and sustainability. We want to brand a unified message and campaign with our neighborhoods, including downtown Champaign, Campus Town, newly named Midtown, the new Boneyard Gateway, downtown Urbana, historic Main Street, the Cranert District, North Prospect. Last July, the Champaign County Sports Commission became a department under the CVB. So we inherited and recently hosted the 5th annual State Farm Shootout at the Hall. And we take credit for some recent Illini recruits, particularly one from Alabama. We continue to utilize new technology to brand Champaign County. Hopefully you already received the CVB Compassing newsletter. You like us on Facebook. You follow us on Twitter. We also do podcast tours, YouTube videos, online testimonials about events and attractions, and we're looking at doing Skype messaging with meeting planners because it's more and more expensive to travel to try to do sales calls to meeting planners. We serve as the official host of the Christie Clinic Illinois Marathon coming up on April 29th and 30th, with anticipated numbers around 18,000 participants. Just to give you an idea, if you hadn't heard, last year's estimated economic impact with around 14,000 was $7.8 million for this community. As host, we coordinate the 27th mile, Celebrate Victory Bash, and the lodging, all the hotel partnerships. Speaking of lodging, the marathon does happen to fall the same weekend as Ebert Fest this year because of where Easter falls, and the Illinois Math Olympiad. So anyone who has an empty room at their house, we may be calling you. We serve as a major financial contributor for the 2 Illinois High School Association championships. We hosted Tent City for IHSA football championships this past November, and we'll host the officials reception and community welcome area for the upcoming IHSA wrestling championships in February. We're going to introduce a Be a Tourist program to get Champaign County residents to discover the arts, culture, and entertainment in their own backyards. We provide support to other annual headliner events already mentioned, and we're preparing for upcoming headliner events such as the NCAA National Championships that will be here in 2013, or the National Science Olympiad occurring here now every 5 years. We prepare sales leads and servicing support to upcoming conventions. To give you a couple quick figures on estimated economic impact on our business travel, an upcoming IDOT conference in September, $16,800. Illinois Association of Vocational Ag Teachers in both June 2012 and June 2013, $51,000 each year. The social sciences meetings that will be held at Beckman in September of 2011, $108,000. The American College Theater Festival that will be hosted in January of 2012, $720,000 in economic impact. We're looking to create a tiered structure to define our level of support for the hundreds of events, meetings, and programs within Champaign County. We're looking at potential re-granting program to assist their efforts in recruiting new events and retaining current events. We're offering a brand new tour called Barn Again, including historic barns and churches, family fun packages, girlfriend getaway packages, golf packages, a culinary dance through downtown Champaign, Urbana, bicycle, art, sculpture tours. The possibilities are endless, and we have it all here in Champaign County. And by this time next year, we will present to you our new offices within the Champaign County Tourism, Arts, and Culture Center. Our compass for success takes many people involved from a variety of directions. I want to give a thank you to Alan Nudo for representing the Champaign County Board on the CBB Board, which we have a certificate that I'll present to Alan at this meeting. Thank you, Alan, for your service. And thank you to Stephanie Holderfield, who will complete this term through fiscal year 12. And she came to her first board meeting this morning, as she mentioned. And we ask you to get involved. You can volunteer as a community host. You can partner with us as a full county board or through your place of business. You can utilize our services for planning your upcoming meeting or group gathering. And for all of us, we need to support local businesses. Together, with proper resources, we can further increase the boost to this economy through travel and tourism. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for a few questions if there are any. Mr. Knott?
Okay, I just got to ask a trick question.
A trick question? Good.
When are we getting the IHSA basketball tournament back?
Well, let's just say we renewed football and wrestling for 5 years, and Peoria renewed basketball for 5 years. The bid that was put in, and a very successful bid from Champaign County, was about a third of what was increased for Peoria. The good part about it is we feel very strongly that the shootout at the Hall is quickly becoming a premier basketball showcase. The challenge that if basketball came back here, they're not going to put the big three in the same area. So we would not have football or wrestling. So there is a lot of benefit to having basketball. This is a basketball town, and Illinois is playing right now, and people would like to be able to have it here, but it's going to be a little while longer before.
I just want to say the positive, I think, after we did lose that tournament, the town really got together and said, we just can't take for granted we're going to keep these things. So kudos to what you do on football and all the other things. So.
Thank you. We're trying hard. It's easy. I think as we rest on our laurels sometimes with hosting the types of events that we do. The marathon is a very good example of the community has embraced that event, and it's continued to increase. I mean, that we never dreamed in the third year that we'd be expecting 18,000 participants. We have to continue supporting that event. We can't get to the point to say, oh, well, somebody else will volunteer. Somebody else will monitor the street. We have to stay engaged in these events that really brand our area.
That's all from policy.
Oh, any other questions? Yes, Illinois is up by 2, in case you want to know. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, let's go to approval of closed session minutes for November 18th, 2010.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Betts, second by Mr. Rosales. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's go to other business. Ms. McGinty, Ms. Petrie, do you have a question? Oh, no, we're going to other business, but Mr. McGinty has the motion. We'll come back to you. Ms. McGinty, go ahead.
I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C2 to consider collective negotiating matters between Champaign County and its employees or their representatives. I further move that the following individuals remain present: County Legal Counsel, County Administrator, and the Recording Secretary.
Second by, Mr. Alex. Roll call.
Benzel?
Yes.
Berkson?
Yes.
Betts?
Yes.
Carter? Coert? Holderfield?
Yes.
James? No. Jay?
Yes.
Jones?
Yeah.
Knott?
Sure.
Kurtz?
Yeah.
Langenheim?
Yes.
McGinty?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Mosier?
Yes.
Nudo?
Yes.
Petrie?
Yes.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
No, please.
Ammons?
Yes.
And Weibel?
Yes, motion carries.